Good afternoon. It is always a true honour to stand in this House of Commons and speak on behalf of the best community in Canada, Peterborough, Kawartha. After 8 years of a Prime Minister who has recklessly spent taxpayer money, we have a cost of living crisis. If the economy doesn't work, nothing works. Charities suffer, social programs suffer. Everything that we need to take care of our most vulnerable is no longer available. Why do we have tent cities across this country? Why do we have full-time employed nurses living in their car? Why do we have seniors who are forced back to work? Why do we have the highest rate of food bank usage in history? Why are Canadians getting poorer? Why do we have the lowest GDP per capita growth rate since the Great Depression? Because we have a Prime Minister who does not care about monetary policy. Those are his words, not mine. This is basic budgeting 101. Every household, in fact, most kids, can tell you that if you spend more money than you make, you're going to have a major problem. And that is exactly what this Prime Minister has done. He did not understand what would happen if he borrowed gobs of money. He was warned many, many, many times. But as we've seen over and over again, this Prime Minister refuses to listen to the people. He doubles down on policy that creates chaos and suffering. This Prime Minister promised everyone interest rates would stay low for a long, long time. Who remembers this exchange on CTV in 2020 with the Prime Minister? CTV's Glenn McGregor said, "Future governments are going to have to carry that debt. The servicing costs on that are going to be very high." The Prime Minister replied, "Sorry?" Glenn McGregor, "The servicing costs on that debt that you are going to have to carry, that you're adding to right now, right?" The Prime Minister, "Interest rates are at historic lows, Glenn." 3 years later, we are in a very serious situation. The current housing minister also is on record telling Canadians that interest rates will stay low for a long, long time. Don't worry. Well, surprise. Just like Conservatives predicted, they didn't. And now we have chaos and suffering. In order to understand how we got here, you need to understand why. What is the motivation of this Liberal NDP government? Well, they believe government knows best. They believe they will take care of you, that you are not capable. Not you, Madam Chair, the people watching at home. Let's take the Liberals' favourite talking point, for example, childcare. This is a classic example of a program that has created more losers than winners. The Liberals drove up inflation by overspending and borrowing gobs of money, which drove up the cost of living. So what happens? They promised money to make childcare more affordable. That promised money to make childcare more affordable becomes less valuable because this is the cycle of overspending. The childcare centres now need more and more money because money is worth less. So it's a vicious, vicious cycle, and you will never get out of debt. You just go further and further into debt. Did you know, Mr. Speaker, that we right now are spending more on servicing our debt than we are on healthcare transfers in this country?
Shameful.
It's wild that you have a government in charge of fiscal responsibility and they haven't seen what they've been doing. They don't understand that when you spend more than you make, you accrue debt. The government doesn't have money, Mr. Speaker. They have Canadian taxpayers' money, and they can only make money by taxing people. And that is what we've seen in this country. People's paychecks have decreased over and over again. I want to read to you, because I'm the critic for families of children and social development, I want to read to you an open letter by ADCO, which is the Association of Daycare Operators of Ontario, that really explains the ideology behind this government and why it is so important to understand ideology. It says, the framers of this program, and she's referring to the $10 a day childcare, seem to have a strong preference for building government-run childcare systems, even if it means parents with young children have to work more hours so they can pay higher taxes to cover the costs. The assumption seems to be that all children are better off in government-managed, institutionalized care and that parents can and should be employed full-time. This out-of-control spending has caused chaos in every sector of our country, Madam Speaker. Because as I've said, when the economy doesn't work, nothing works. And yet you have a finance minister and prime minister who continually gaslights Canadians and tells them they've never had it so good. Canadians are not stupid. They're miserable. I want to read you some messages that have come through to me. Hi, Michelle. I'm a single mom of 19. I'm a single mom of a 19-year-old in college and a 15-year-old in high school with no child support. I'm paying almost $1,600 rent plus approximately $1,000 for utilities, car payment and insurances for a 3-bedroom townhouse in the ghetto of Burlington. As tenants move out, they are gutting the units, adding central air, stainless appliance, and raising rent to over $2,500. I work in healthcare and basically live check to check. I only buy groceries that are on sale or in the reduced bin. Thankfully, I was gifted with a large freezer and buy fresh items on sale and am able to freeze. I make a decent wage. I do not know how others do it, making less than I do. Something needs to be done. What about this one? We bought our house 6 years ago and have a variable mortgage, so we are already feeling the effects of the higher interest rates. Over the last year and a half, our mortgage has gone from $3,400 a month to $5,000. Wow. My husband and I both work full-time and we have 2 young kids. We've had to rent our basement in order to afford our mortgage increase. If even one single month goes by that we don't get the rent income, or we will not make our mortgage. If our mortgage continues to rise, even with the rent income, we won't make our mortgage. It's extremely scary. Every time the interest rate rises, I wait for the letter in the mail to tell me how much more higher my mortgage is going to be. It's terrifying and quite literally taking away from the quality of life that I can offer to my children. That is the message I can't say loud enough in this House. Our children are feeling the consequences of this. I recently went and gave a talk about basic politics to grade 5s. They're 10 years old. And we did a mock House of Commons. It was very fun to get these kids engaged in politics. And I said, okay, we get to decide what issue you guys want to debate. And I said, we'll take a vote, we'll do the majority. 6 kids raised their hand. 6 children, every one of them. Do you know what their number 1 issue was? Everything's too pricey. My parents can't afford gas. My parents can't afford food. We can't afford the mortgage. This is the burden we are putting onto our children when we don't put fiscal responsibility first, when we don't care about monetary policy. And that is exactly what this Liberal Prime Minister has done. And it is hurting our most vulnerable. Read any headline. Charities can't make it happen anymore. Today is International Volunteer Day. People can't find volunteers because they can't afford the gas to drive to volunteer. That is the reality of what we are living in this country. We have put forth lots of solutions, Mr. Speaker, and I believe I only have about a minute left. Is that right? And I'll be brief in what the solutions are, but the real solution has to come down to you cannot tax the farmer who makes the food. And Farmer Brown from Ontario phoned me this week, and he said, Michelle, I want you to ask the Prime Minister this. Or he said, I want you to tell the Prime Minister this. He said, carbon tax will make everything cost more money. Everything must go up in price. Whatever we spend to make the product, we have to get back when we sell it. Whatever you increase carbon tax by, the price will have to go up that amount. We have to get that money back. And the only way to do that is to raise prices. Farmer Brown gets it. Why doesn't this Prime Minister? It is long overdue for common sense, and Conservatives will bring it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.